Welcome to English Prime Podcast. Let's get started.
Hey, English learners. Welcome back to English Prime Podcast. Here, we learn real English through simple conversations, daily life stories, and powerful communication tips. So relax, enjoy, and let's improve your English together. I'm Emma.
And I am Jake. Here, we help you improve your English by listening to real conversations about real life. So instead of just memorizing words, you can learn how people actually communicate in everyday situations.
You know, one of the best ways to improve English is by hearing natural conversations. When you listen to people sharing ideas, asking questions, and talking about their experiences, you start picking up useful phrases and speaking patterns without even feeling like you are studying.
Exactly. And that's what we try to do here. We talk about topics that are not only useful for your English, but also useful for your life. Because communication is not just about knowing words. It is also about having the confidence to express yourself.
And confidence is actually a great topic to talk about today. Because think about it. Almost everyone wants to be more confident. Some people want confidence when they speak English, some want it at work, and some want it in their personal life.
Yes. And the interesting thing is that many people have the wrong idea about confidence. They think confident people are people who never feel nervous, never make mistakes, and always know what to say.
But is that really true? I mean, we all know people who look confident from the outside, but maybe they also have doubts inside.
Exactly. And that's what makes confidence interesting. Real confidence doesn't mean you never feel afraid. It means you learn how to move forward, even when you feel unsure.
I think many people are waiting for confidence to appear before they take action. They say, when I feel confident, then I will try. But maybe that's the thing that keeps them stuck.
That's a really important point, because confidence is usually not something you find first and then start. Many times you start first, you practice, you learn from mistakes, and slowly you build confidence.
So today, we're going to talk about how to build real confidence, where it actually comes from, and how small daily actions can change the way we see ourselves.
And while you listen, try to notice the expressions we use in our conversation. You'll learn some natural English phrases that you can use in your own life, too.
So if you enjoy these kinds of real conversations and want to improve your English naturally, don't forget to like the video and stay with us.
Now, let's talk about something we all experience. Why some people seem confident, and how we can build that confidence step by step. And I think the first thing we need to understand is what real confidence actually means.
That's a good place to start, because many people have a picture of confidence in their mind that may not be completely true. They imagine a confident person as someone who is always relaxed, always successful, and never makes mistakes.
Yes, and that image can actually make people feel less confident. Because when they see someone who looks perfect, they think, I can never be like that. But the truth is, confident people also have fears, doubts, and difficult moments.
Right. I think people often forget that confidence is not about having a perfect life. It's more about trusting yourself and believing that you can handle situations, even when things are not easy.
Exactly. A confident person can walk into a room and still feel nervous. They can start a new job and still feel unsure. They can speak in front of others and still feel a little scared. The difference is, they don't let those feelings completely stop them.
That's actually a very important point, because sometimes we think nervousness means we are not confident, but maybe feeling nervous just means something matters to us.
Yes, and confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move forward even when fear is there. Think about someone giving their first presentation. They might feel their heart beating faster, but they still stand up and share their ideas.
And after they finish, even if it wasn't perfect, they learn something. They realize, I was nervous, but I did it. That small experience can change the way they see themselves.
Exactly. Because real confidence comes from evidence. Every time you try something, every time you handle a challenge, you give yourself proof that you are capable.
I like that idea because it means confidence is not something only a few people are born with. It's something anyone can develop through experience.
Yes, and this is why some people who seem naturally confident today were not always like that. They probably had moments where they were unsure too, but they kept practicing and growing.
So maybe the question is not, why am I not confident like other people? Maybe the better question is, what small actions can I take to trust myself more?
And that question changes everything, because once you start focusing on small actions, confidence slowly becomes something you build instead of something you wait for.
I really like that idea, because so many people think the order is the opposite. They believe first I'll become confident and then I'll take action.
Exactly. But in real life, it usually works the other way around. You take a small action first, then you gain a little experience, and that experience slowly builds your confidence.
It's almost like learning to ride a bicycle. You don't become confident before you get on the bike. You become confident because you keep practicing, even if you lose your balance a few times.
That's a perfect example. And the same thing happens when you're learning English. Many learners say, I'll start speaking when my English is perfect. But if you keep waiting for perfect English, you may never start speaking.
I think every English learner can relate to that. Sometimes we know the words, but we're afraid of making mistakes, so we stay quiet, hoping that one day we'll suddenly feel ready.
And that perfect day rarely comes. The people who become confident speakers are usually the ones who accept that they'll make mistakes. They speak anyway, learn from those mistakes, and improve little by little.
So the mistake isn't speaking imperfect English. The bigger mistake is not speaking at all.
Exactly. Every conversation teaches you something. Maybe you learn a new word. Maybe you notice a pronunciation mistake. Or maybe you simply realize that people understood you better than you expected.
That's true. Sometimes we imagine the worst possible situation in our minds, but when we actually do the thing we're afraid of, it's not nearly as bad as we thought.
Our minds are really good at creating scary stories. We think everyone will judge us or laugh at us, but most people are busy thinking about themselves, not looking for someone else's mistakes.
That's actually so true. We spend so much time worrying about what other people think, while they're probably worrying about what we think of them.
Exactly. And once you realize that, taking the first step becomes a little easier. You stop trying to be perfect, and you start focusing on making progress.
And the beautiful thing is that every small step gives you a little more confidence for the next one. One conversation makes the second conversation easier. One presentation makes the next presentation feel less scary.
That's why action is so powerful. Confidence isn't the reason we act. Very often, action is the reason confidence grows.
So instead of asking yourself, how can I feel more confident? Maybe a better question is, what's one small action I can take today?
Because once you start taking those small actions, you're no longer waiting for confidence to arrive. You're creating it, one step at a time.
And I think that's where something really important comes in. Small wins. We often believe confidence comes from one big success, but I don't think that's how it usually works.
I agree. When people hear the word confidence, they often imagine someone winning a huge award, getting their dream job, or giving an amazing speech. But real confidence is usually built through much smaller moments that most people don't even notice.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine someone decides to wake up 30 minutes earlier every morning so they can practice English. On the first day, it doesn't feel like a big achievement. The second day feels normal too. But after a few weeks, they're keeping a promise they made to themselves. That might seem small, but it sends a very powerful message to the brain.
The message is, I can trust myself.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the strongest foundations of confidence. It's not just believing that you're talented, it's believing that you'll actually do what you say you're going to do.
That's interesting, because we usually think confidence comes from what other people say about us. Someone gives us a compliment, and we feel confident. Someone criticizes us, and suddenly our confidence disappears.
And that's a difficult way to live, because your confidence depends on other people's opinions. Some days they'll praise you, and some days they won't. If your confidence depends only on that, it will always go up and down.
So real confidence has to come from something more stable.
Exactly. It grows when you can look at yourself and say, I know I'm improving because I've been putting in the work. That's something no one can take away from you.
I also think people underestimate how much small progress matters. Sometimes we don't celebrate our own growth because we're only looking at the final goal.
That's true. Imagine someone wants to become a confident English speaker. They might focus only on speaking fluently, but along the way they forget to notice that they're understanding more videos, learning new vocabulary, speaking longer sentences, and feeling less nervous than they did a month ago.
And when you ignore those improvements, it starts to feel like you're not moving forward, even though you actually are.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to notice your small wins. They're like little pieces of evidence that remind you you're getting better.
I love that word, evidence, because confidence isn't built by repeating, I'm confident, over and over. It's built by giving yourself real proof.
Right. Every small win becomes another piece of proof. You finished a difficult task. That's proof. You spoke English even though you were nervous. That's proof too. You asked a question instead of staying silent. That's proof too.
And those moments may only last a few minutes, but together they slowly change how you see yourself.
Exactly. Think of confidence like building a wall with bricks. One brick doesn't look very impressive. You might even wonder if it's making any difference. But if you keep adding one brick every day, eventually you have a strong wall.
I really like that example, because people often quit after laying only a few bricks. They look at the wall and think, it's still too small. They don't realize that every strong wall starts exactly the same way.
Yes, and that's why patience is so important. We live in a world where people want quick results. They want confidence in a week. But confidence grows the same way a tree grows. You don't always notice the change from one day to the next. But if you keep taking care of it, one day you realize how much it has grown.
And I think another small win that people forget is simply trying again after something doesn't go well.
Absolutely. Imagine you give a presentation and you don't perform the way you wanted. You could decide never to do it again, or you could prepare a little more and try again. That second attempt is already a small win because you didn't let one bad experience stop you.
That's such an important point. Sometimes the win isn't getting everything right. Sometimes the win is just refusing to give up.
Exactly. We often celebrate success, but we should also celebrate consistency. Showing up again and again, especially when it's difficult, builds a kind of confidence that lasts much longer than confidence based on one lucky moment.
So maybe instead of asking ourselves, have I reached my goal yet? We should ask, what small win can I be proud of today?
Because when you start collecting those small wins, instead of chasing one perfect moment, you slowly realize something powerful. You've been building real confidence all along. One promise, one effort, and one small victory at a time.
And I think that's a perfect point to move to another challenge that almost everyone faces today, comparison. Because even if you're making progress, it's very easy to lose confidence the moment you start comparing yourself with someone else.
Oh, absolutely. I honestly think comparison is one of the biggest reasons people struggle with confidence today. It's happening everywhere, on social media, at work, at school, and even among friends.
I know exactly what you mean. You could have a really good day, feel proud of yourself, and then you open your phone for just 5 minutes. Suddenly, you see someone speaking perfect English, someone getting promoted, someone traveling the world, or someone starting a successful business. And just like that, your good mood disappears.
It's amazing how quickly that can happen. Nothing in your own life has actually changed, but your feelings have changed completely. That's the power of comparison.
Why do you think that happens?
Because our brains naturally compare. It's something humans have always done. The problem isn't comparison itself. The problem is that we're comparing our real lives to someone else's highlight reel.
That's such a good way to describe it. We usually see the best moments of other people's lives, not the difficult parts.
Exactly. Think about social media for a second. Most people don't post videos of themselves making mistakes 20 times before getting something right. They don't show the sleepless nights, the failures, the doubts, or the hard work behind the success.
They show the finished result.
Right. And then we look at that finished result and compare it to our own beginning. That's never a fair comparison.
I remember hearing a quote that said, "Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
I love that quote because it's so true. Imagine someone has been learning English for 5 years and you've been learning for 6 months. If you compare your speaking to theirs, of course you'll feel disappointed. But that comparison ignores something very important, the amount of time and practice they've already invested.
Instead of feeling inspired, we end up feeling discouraged.
Exactly.
And once self-doubt enters your mind, it starts asking dangerous questions.
Like, maybe I'm not smart enough.
Or maybe I'll never be that good.
Or even, what's the point of trying if everyone else is already ahead of me?
Yes, those thoughts can become very powerful if we don't challenge them. And the strange thing is, they're usually based on assumptions, not facts.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let's say you see someone speaking English fluently. Your mind immediately tells you they're naturally talented, but you don't actually know that. Maybe they struggled for years. Maybe they made hundreds of mistakes. Maybe they felt exactly the same way you feel right now.
That's true. We often create stories about other people's success without knowing what really happened behind the scenes.
Exactly. And those stories usually make us feel smaller instead of motivating us.
So how can people stop comparing themselves? Because honestly, it's easier said than done.
I don't think we can completely stop comparing ourselves. It's a natural habit. But we can change who we compare ourselves to.
That's interesting. Explain that a little more.
Instead of comparing yourself with someone else, compare yourself with the person you were 6 months ago, or even last week. Ask yourself simple questions. Am I learning something new? Am I making fewer mistakes? Am I a little braver than before? Those are much healthier comparisons.
I really like that because it puts the focus back on your own journey.
Exactly. Confidence grows when you notice your own progress, not when you're constantly measuring yourself against someone else's.
I also think we forget that every person has a different starting point. Some people had more opportunities. Some had better teachers. Some started earlier. Some had more free time to practice.
That's such an important point. Two people can work equally hard and still move at different speeds because their situations are completely different. So comparing results without understanding the full story doesn't make much sense.
It's almost like watching two runners in a race without realizing one of them started much farther behind the starting line.
Exactly. And if you only look at who's ahead, you'll miss the incredible progress the other runner has already made.
You know what I've noticed? The people who are truly confident don't seem obsessed with being better than everyone else.
That's because real confidence isn't about winning every comparison. It's about becoming a better version of yourself. Confident people still admire others, but they don't let someone else's success make them feel like a failure.
I love that difference. You can look at someone successful and think, good for them. What can I learn from them? Instead of thinking, I'll never be good enough.
Exactly. That one small change in thinking can completely change your attitude. Instead of feeling jealous, you become curious. Instead of feeling defeated, you become motivated.
And I think that's much healthier because someone else's success doesn't reduce your chances of succeeding. There isn't a limited amount of confidence or success in the world.
That's right. Life isn't a competition where only one person gets to improve. Someone else's progress doesn't stop your progress. In fact, it can remind you of what's possible if you keep learning and growing.
So maybe the goal isn't to become better than everyone else.
No. The real goal is to become better than the person you used to be. Because the moment you stop competing with everyone around you and start focusing on your own growth, self-doubt slowly loses its power, and real confidence finally has the space to grow.
And there's another thing that can make confidence disappear very quickly: failure. I think a lot of people feel confident when everything is going well, but the moment they fail at something, they start questioning themselves.
That's true. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about confident people is that they don't fail. But if you look at successful people in any field, you'll find the opposite is true. They failed many times. The difference is not that they avoid failure, it's that they don't let failure define who they are.
I like that distinction, because failing at something and being a failure are two completely different things.
Exactly. But when something goes wrong, our minds often mix those two ideas together. Instead of saying, I failed this time, we start saying, I'm just not good enough. That one small change in language can completely change how we see ourselves.
And once you start believing that, it becomes much harder to try again.
Right. Imagine someone gives a presentation at work and it doesn't go well. Maybe they forget some points, get nervous, or struggle to answer a question. They walk away feeling embarrassed.
At that moment, they have two choices, don't they?
They do. The first choice is to tell themselves, I'm terrible at public speaking. I'll never do this again. The second choice is to say, that wasn't my best presentation. What can I learn from it before the next one?
The situation is exactly the same, but the way they think about it is completely different.
Exactly. One mindset closes the door. The other opens it.
I think this also happens with English learners. Maybe they try speaking with someone, make a few mistakes, and then they feel embarrassed.
Yes, and sometimes that one conversation becomes a huge story in their minds. They think, everyone noticed my mistakes. They probably think my English is terrible.
When, in reality, the other person may have understood them just fine.
Exactly. Most people are much kinder than we imagine. And even if someone notices your mistakes, that doesn't mean they're judging you. Many people actually respect someone who is trying to learn a new language.
That's true. I always admire people who are brave enough to communicate in a language they're still learning. It takes courage.
It really does. And courage is a big part of confidence. People often think confidence comes first and courage comes later. But many times, courage comes first. You act even though you're afraid, and confidence grows because of that experience.
I love that idea. So maybe confidence isn't saying, I know I won't fail.
Exactly. It's saying, even if I fail, I'll be okay. I'll learn something, improve, and try again.
That sounds much more realistic, because nobody succeeds every single time.
No one does. In fact, if you're never failing, there's a good chance you're only doing things that feel comfortable. Growth usually happens when we try something that's a little beyond our current ability.
So failure isn't always a sign that you're doing something wrong.
Not at all. Sometimes it's actually a sign that you're challenging yourself. Think about learning any new skill. Whether it's driving, cooking, speaking English, or playing a musical instrument, mistakes are part of the process. We accept that when we're children, but somehow as adults, we expect ourselves to get everything right immediately.
That's so true. We become much less patient with ourselves as we grow older.
We really do. We give other people permission to learn, but we don't always give ourselves the same kindness.
That's a powerful point. We often encourage our friends by saying, don't worry, keep going, you'll get better. But when we make the same mistake, we're much more critical of ourselves.
Exactly. And that harsh self-talk can damage confidence far more than the failure itself. The mistake lasts a few minutes, but the negative story we keep repeating in our minds can last for months.
So maybe after every failure, instead of asking, why did this happen to me? We should ask, what is this experience trying to teach me?
I think that's one of the best questions anyone can ask, because every failure contains information. Maybe you need more practice. Maybe you need a different strategy. Maybe you simply need more time. But none of those things mean you're incapable.
And when you start looking at failure as feedback instead of proof that you're not good enough, everything begins to change.
Exactly. You stop seeing failure as the end of your journey and start seeing it as part of the journey. Every mistake becomes a lesson instead of a label.
And over time, something interesting happens. You stop being so afraid of failing because you know that even if things don't go as planned, you'll learn, adjust, and keep moving forward.
And that's when confidence becomes much stronger, because real confidence isn't built by avoiding failure. It's built by facing failure, learning from it, and refusing to let it decide what you're capable of.
That actually reminds me of a short story about someone I know. I think it explains this idea better than any definition.
Go ahead. I love hearing real-life examples.
A friend of mine wanted to improve his English, but he was afraid of speaking. Every day, he watched English videos and learned new words, but whenever someone asked him to speak, he would smile and say, maybe next time.
So he was learning, but he wasn't giving himself a chance to use what he had learned.
Exactly. Then one day, he made a simple promise to himself. He said, today, I'll speak English for just 1 minute. That's all.
Just 1 minute? That sounds much less overwhelming.
It was. During that 1 minute, he made a few grammar mistakes, forgot a couple of words, and paused several times. But something interesting happened. No one laughed, no one judged him, and the conversation went much better than he had imagined.
Sometimes our imagination creates bigger problems than reality.
That's true. The next day, he spoke for another minute, then 2 minutes. A few weeks later, he was having short conversations without overthinking every sentence.
So what changed wasn't his English overnight. It was his confidence.
Exactly. His confidence didn't come because he waited for the perfect moment. It came because he kept taking small actions, even when he felt nervous.
And I think that's the lesson. Real confidence doesn't suddenly appear one day. It quietly grows every time you choose to take one more small step forward.
And I think that's a great place to ask a simple question. If confidence grows through small actions, what can we actually do to become more confident?
The good news is you don't need to change your whole life overnight. In fact, trying to change everything at once usually makes people feel overwhelmed. Real confidence is built through small, consistent habits.
So instead of setting a huge goal, start with something that feels possible.
Exactly. If you're learning English, don't tell yourself, tomorrow I'll speak perfectly for 30 minutes. Instead, say, today I'll speak for 2 minutes, or today I'll learn and use 3 new phrases. Small goals are much easier to achieve, and every time you achieve one, you build a little more confidence.
Another thing that really helps is celebrating your progress. I think we're often so focused on what we haven't achieved that we forget how far we've already come.
That's so true. Sometimes we only notice the big milestones, but confidence grows because of the small ones. Maybe today you understood an English podcast without subtitles. Maybe you asked a question in class. Maybe you finally had the courage to start a conversation. Those moments matter.
And don't be too hard on yourself when things don't go as planned.
Absolutely. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend. If your friend made a mistake, you probably wouldn't say, "You're hopeless, just give up." You'd encourage them to keep trying.
But for some reason, we're much kinder to other people than we are to ourselves.
Exactly. So the next time you make a mistake, instead of saying, "I can't do this," try saying, "I'm still learning." That one small change in the way you speak to yourself can make a big difference over time.
And here's one more idea that I really like. Keep a small record of your progress. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Just write down one thing you did well each day.
I love that idea, because on days when you feel like you're not improving, you can look back and see real proof that you are. Confidence grows much faster when you remind yourself of your own progress instead of only noticing your mistakes.
So if we had to keep today's advice really simple, it would be this. Take small actions, be patient with yourself, learn from mistakes, and don't forget to notice your progress.
Because confidence isn't something you find, it's something you build, one choice at a time.
Now we'd love to hear from you.
What's one area of your life where you want to become more confident? It could be speaking English, public speaking, making new friends, starting a new job, or anything else.
And more importantly, what's one small action you can take this week to move one step closer to that goal?
Share your answer in the comments. Your story might inspire someone who's feeling exactly the way you once did.
And who knows, your first small step today could encourage someone else to take theirs tomorrow.
And before we finish today's conversation, let's take a few minutes to look at some useful English that naturally came up during our discussion. This is one of my favorite parts because you're not learning random vocabulary. You've already heard these expressions being used in a real conversation.
Exactly. That's one of the best ways to improve your English. First, you hear a phrase in context, then you understand what it means, and finally, you start using it yourself. That's much more effective than simply memorizing a long list of words.
Let's start with the expression build confidence. We used this phrase several times today because it's very common in everyday English.
Yes, build confidence simply means to become more confident over time through practice and experience. It doesn't happen in one day. It grows little by little.
For example, you could say, speaking English every day helps me build confidence.
Or you could say, every small success builds my confidence. Both sentences sound very natural.
Now let's look at another expression we mentioned. Step out of your comfort zone.
I really like this one because it's useful in so many situations. Your comfort zone is a place or situation where you feel safe and comfortable. So when you step out of your comfort zone, you try something that's new or a little challenging.
For example, I stepped out of my comfort zone and spoke English with a tourist.
Or maybe, joining this English club helped me step out of my comfort zone. That's another very natural way to use it.
Here's another phrase that came up during our discussion. Learn from your mistakes.
This one is very important, not just for English, but for life as well. It means you don't let mistakes stop you. Instead, you use them to improve.
For example, I made a few pronunciation mistakes, but I learned from them.
Or, the best students learn from their mistakes instead of being afraid of them.
Now let's move to a very common expression, believe in yourself.
You'll hear this phrase everywhere, in conversations, movies, interviews, and motivational talks. It simply means to trust your own ability, even if you're still learning.
For example, believe in yourself and don't be afraid to speak English.
Or, sometimes you just need to believe in yourself and take the first step.
Now let's learn a phrasal verb. Today's phrasal verb is give up.
This one is very common. Give up means to stop trying because something feels difficult.
For example, don't give up after one bad presentation.
Or, she didn't give up, and eventually she became a confident speaker.
Here's another useful phrasal verb from today's conversation. Move forward.
It means to continue your journey instead of staying stuck because of a mistake or a difficult experience.
For example, he learned from his failure and moved forward.
Or, it's okay to make mistakes. Just move forward and keep practicing.
Now I'd like to share one more expression because I think it perfectly matches today's topic. One step at a time.
I love this expression because it reminds us that big goals are achieved through small actions. You don't have to do everything today. Just focus on the next step.
For example, I'm improving my English one step at a time.
Or, don't rush. Build your confidence one step at a time.
Now, here's a small learning tip for everyone listening. Don't try to memorize all these expressions at once.
Instead, choose 2 or 3 phrases that you really like. Write them down, say them out loud, and then create your own sentences using those phrases.
That's because when you make your own examples, your brain connects the English with your real life instead of treating it like something you only saw in a textbook.
You can even challenge yourself after this episode. Pick one phrase, maybe build confidence or step out of my comfort zone, and use it in a sentence about your own life.
You could say something like, this week, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone by speaking English with someone new.
Or, I'm building confidence by practicing English for 20 minutes every day. Those are simple sentences, but they're real, personal, and much easier to remember.
And that's exactly how language learning becomes natural. You don't just recognize the expression, you start making it part of your own everyday English.
Because at the end of the day, our goal isn't just to help you understand English, it's to help you use it confidently whenever you need it.
And the best way to do that is by speaking. So before we end today's episode, let's do a quick speaking practice together.
Don't worry if your pronunciation isn't perfect. Just listen carefully, pause the video if you need to, and repeat after us. The more you speak, the more natural English will start to feel.
All right, here's the first sentence. I am building my confidence one step at a time.
Great! Now say it one more time, but this time try to say it a little more naturally. I am building my confidence one step at a time.
Excellent. Here's the next one. I learn from my mistakes, and I keep going.
That's a really useful sentence because it's not just good English, it's also a great mindset to have.
Now let's try another one. I believe in myself, even when something feels difficult.
Very nice. Remember, don't speak too fast. Focus on speaking clearly and confidently.
All right, here's one more. Every small step helps me become more confident.
Perfect. And now let's do one final sentence that brings everything we've talked about together.
Repeat after me. I don't wait for confidence. I build it through action.
Wonderful. If you repeated all of those sentences, you've already practiced your speaking today. And that's exactly how improvement happens. Not by only listening, but by actually using the language.
Here's a small challenge for you. Choose your favorite sentence from today's practice and say it 3 times today. Then, try to use it in a real conversation, or even say it to yourself in front of a mirror. It may feel a little strange at first, but that's completely normal.
And if you really want to improve your spoken English, try making one new sentence using the expressions we learned today. The more you personalize your English, the easier it becomes to remember.
Now, we'd love to hear from you. Write your favorite sentence from today's speaking practice in the comments, or create your own sentence using one of today's expressions. We'll be reading your comments, and it's always great to see you practicing.
And if you enjoyed today's conversation and want to improve your English through real-life discussions like this, Make sure you subscribe to English Prime Podcast and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode.
We have many more conversations coming your way about communication, personal growth, and everyday life, all designed to help you become a more confident English speaker, one conversation at a time.
Before we say goodbye, let's do a quick recap of today's conversation.
We started by talking about what real confidence actually means. We learned that confidence doesn't mean you never feel nervous or make mistakes. It means trusting yourself enough to keep moving forward, even when things feel uncertain.
Then we talked about something really important. Confidence comes from action. Most people think they need confidence before they start, but in reality, confidence grows after we take that first step.
We also learned that small wins matter. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, practice a new skill, or do something that feels a little challenging, you're building confidence, even if the progress seems small.
After that, we discussed comparison and self-doubt. Instead of comparing yourself with other people, compare yourself with the person you were yesterday. That's a much healthier way to measure your progress.
And we also talked about failure. Making mistakes doesn't mean you're not good enough. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn, improve, and come back stronger.
So if there's one idea we'd love for you to remember after today's episode, it's this. Don't wait for confidence to magically appear. Start with one small action, keep learning, and let your confidence grow naturally over time.
Exactly. Real confidence isn't about becoming fearless. It's about believing that no matter what happens, you'll keep learning, improving, and moving forward.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We really hope this conversation helped you not only improve your English, but also gave you something meaningful to think about.
Keep practicing your English, keep believing in yourself, and remember, every conversation is another step toward becoming a more confident speaker.
Take care, keep learning, keep growing.
And we'll see you in the next episode of the English Prime Podcast.
Bye everyone, take care.
Bye, have a wonderful day, and happy English learning.